Hey guys, in this video I'm going to go through an example of an inverse function question, where you have to restrict the domain of a quadratic function to find its inverse, and then we're going to have to find the rule of the inverse function. Now this is an important question to understand because these types of questions come up a lot in your multiple choice sections on your exams. And if you can get this question right, you should be able to answer similar types of questions, like when you're given a cubic function or some sort of polynomial with a higher power. So let's jump into it. So we've got given f of x equals x squared minus 10x plus 25 with a domain of from a to infinity, find part a, the smallest value of a so that f of inverse exists. For an inverse function to exist, we need to restrict its original function f of x so it becomes a one-to-one function. And we know that a one-to-one function is a function that passes through the horizontal line test. Now, another way of looking at it is to restrict the domain of f of x so that there are no turning points within its restricted domain. Because if there was a turning point, then it would fail the horizontal line test, and so therefore it's not going to be a one-to-one function. So how do we do this? At this point, it's always good to have a look at the graph of the function first. For this question, it's a parabola, and so we should be able to just sketch this. Rewriting the rule of f of x, this is the same as x minus 5 all squared. And so sketching this, we have a parabola that's translated 5 units to the right. And so if we restrict the domain of f of x so there's no turning points, then we would need to restrict the domain from minus infinity to the value of 5. Or we could restrict it from x is equal to 5 to infinity. And so if we restrict the domain to be from minus infinity to 5, where 5 is inclusive, or from 5 to infinity, this function would then be a one-to-one function. So now coming back to part A to answer the question, we want a number from a to infinity. And so this smallest number then must be 5. And so therefore the value of a is equal to 5. Now if a was anything less than 5, then the graph will have a turning point within its domain. And if it's got the turning point, then it's not going to be a one-to-one function, which means that f inverse won't exist. Part B. We need to find f inverse of x. The first thing we need to do to find f inverse of x is let y is equal to f of x. And then we want to swap the x and y variables and then solve for y. And so if we let y is equal to x minus 5 squared, swapping the x and y's, we're going to get x is equal to y minus 5 squared. And now just as a side note, if you have a parabola, you want to rewrite it so that x is a linear factor. Otherwise, just swapping x and y when you have x squared minus 10x plus 25 is going to be way too hard to solve for y. And so now that we have this in the form that we need, we just need to make y the subject. And so taking the square root of both sides, we're going to get the square root of x, which is plus and minus x, is equal to y minus 5. And so solving for y, we're going to get y is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of x. From here, what we need to do is reject one of these rules. And the way we do that is by making sure that the range of this function will equal the domain of the original function f of x. The domain of f of x, when we restricted it, was from 5 to infinity. And so this means the range of the inverse function must be from 5 to infinity. Therefore we can reject 5 minus root x, as this is going to result in values less than 5. And so therefore f inverse of x is going to equal 5 plus root x. And finally we need to include the domain of f inverse. The domain of f inverse is going to equal the range of f of x. The range of f of x when restricted to the domain from 5 to infinity is from 0 to infinity. And so this means that the domain of f inverse is going to be the x values from 0 to infinity. And that's it. Comment below if you have any questions, and if you found this video helpful, then share it with your friends. Now, if you're interested in learning more questions related to inverse functions, then log into the Maths Methods Club, and then from the main topic, select Functions and Graphs. And from the subtopic, select Inverse Functions. There's a variety of exam questions that you can try. And if you wanted to filter this down, you can just go to multiple choice questions and just try them. A similar question to what we just did is the Northern Hemisphere 2019 question 11. Try this question and see how you go. Good luck, and I'll see you guys next time.